back to my channel. So in this video I'm going to show you guys how to make this dress. So guys, for this here you could use any fabric that you want, right? But what I have available for me is Akara. So what I'm going to do here is that you're going to go ahead and fold your fabric into two. You notice that I just split open the side here, but the fabric is supposed to be, I have two pieces of it here. So, and then now I'm going to cut both the front and the back together. So fold it into two now. And then the next thing is going to be to make sure that you have the so the width of this fabric is going to be your shoulder measurement. So my shoulder divided by 2 is 8. And then make sure that the length you have here before you add your flare. So you're going to measure from your shoulder to where you want the length to be. That's before you add the extra flare. So for me, that is about 10.5. So by the time I'm done, the length of this is supposed to be just 10, and then plus the ruffle, right? So, but you could make yours even longer if you want, but this is okay for me. And then the next thing I'm going to add is my neckline of 3. You could do 3.5 if you want to. So this is my shoulder, this is my neckline. And then the next thing I'm going to do is, then the length I have here is going to be 31. So normally you're going to have, so you could measure yourself and find out what you want the length to be before you add your ruffle. So I want to end up with about, let's say 35 inches for the total length of the dress. But what I have at the moment is about 30. But remember, I'm still going to use half an inch to join the shoulder, half an inch to join the bottom. So that's why I have 31 at the moment for the length. And then I'm going to add 5 inches of flare. That will leave me with 35 as the final length of the dress. So now the next thing is going to be to just go ahead and cut out this hair. So you're going to just go ahead and give it a curve, just like this. Just give it a curve like this. If you're not sure how to measure it, you could just go around and do, let's say maybe 31, and then blend it in. So put your tape here and just blend it in like you're trying to cut a circle. That could also work. So this is it for me here, right? Like I said, you could make yours even wider, right? But this is okay. And then the next thing I'm going to do is to just come down here and mark 1 inch of neck depth, cut it out. And then for the front, I'm going to do V-neck. So you could measure where you want the V to be. So let's say I decide to do, the depth of my V is going to be 9. I'm going to connect it all the way to 9. And that is it. So I'm only cutting one neckline here. And then I'm going to go ahead and cut this side out. And then after that, the next thing I'm going to cut out is going to be remove one piece out. And this one here, I'm going to just cut out the neckline from it. So once you do that, you're going to go ahead and just cut out the neckline here. So this is it for me. So you could also go ahead and cut out a facing for it, both for the front and the back. And then after that, the next thing is going to be, or if you could use bias to do it, you could also use bias. So then once that is done, the next thing is for me is going to just be to open this up, the front first. You see how it's looking now. And then I'm going to take the back and place it on it like this. And then I'm going to take the back and place it on it like this. This is what it looks like, you see. And then I'm going to just, once you finish putting the facing for the neckline, or you use bias to run it, what I'm going to do is just join the shoulder using half an inch, and then join the shoulder using half an inch. The next thing is going to be to take my tape and measure round all the way. So I'm going to take my tape now and start to measure all the way around like this, all the corners of this. So you're going to measure it. So my tape stops here at 60, and then I'm going to go back in here at 60 again and complete it and see what I have. So I have 28 plus 60. So that is going to be 88, right? So that means the round this here is 88. But remember, I have one piece and then another piece, right? So that's going to be 88 times 2 to get the whole round of this here. So that is going to be, so that is 176. So now we've gotten what is going to be to measure the first one and the second one all the way, right? So 178 is what we're working, 176 is what we're working with. So now you're going to calculate, this here is just to get how many inches we need for the ruffle, right? Because this is what I'm using for my ruffle here, right? this is it here. So this is what I cut from the bottom of the clothes. So I already have some piece here, and it's 2 of them, but I will need it to be ×2. So, or not, ×2 might not be flare enough, right? But see that I'm working with a Kara has starch. But if you're working with that Adire fabric that might just drop, or you're working with something that is a little lighter, you might want to do ×3 or ×2.5, so it's fuller. But with a Kara, because of the starch, even the smallest amount goes a long way, because it's going to just be puffy, right? So for me, I can get away with, let's say, ×2 of this or ×2.5. But if the fabric was lighter, I would definitely do maybe ×3 or ×2.5, just so that it's a little full. So now, so let's say if I decide to do ×2.5, 176 ×2.5. So that means I'm working with 440, right? So I need to make sure that the width of the flare I have is up to 440 in length. So I'm going to make sure I cut this here until I get about 440 in width, right? But then the length, like I said, I just need the dress to be 35 when it's done. So that means to whatever my flare, the length is going to be, I'm going to add 1.5 to it, so that when I use 1 inch to hem the bottom, I use ½ an inch to join this here to the end of the cloth, then I'm going to be left with 5. So I'm going to make sure I have 6.5 in total as the length, and then as the width, I'm going to have 440. So that way I can join it all the way around. So guys, this is what it looks like right now. So you see, I've joined together all the way around, and then I use bias to turn the neckline. So the next thing I'm going to do is, guys, is just to put the seam on top of it. So I'm going to fold it into 2 like this. So make sure it's equal. You're going to fold it into 2. You see the way I have mine. So now this is so that we can put the stitch on top of it, right? So you're going to go ahead and measure from your armhole. So basically this is where my so from the top here, I'm going to measure down to, let's say, what your armhole would normally be, but come down maybe 2 inches from that. So mine would have been maybe at 10, so I'm going to come down 2 inches. That's going to be 12, or you could do plus extra 3 inches. And then from this point now, I'm going to come and mark my bust divided by 4. So let's say it's here, but instead I'm going to add extra like 1 inch to it and mark it. So that means my seam is going to be on this point here. And then from this point now, I'm going to mark where my waist is going to be. So again, from my shoulder to where my armhole is going to be, I came down 2 inches from that. Then I'm going to come down to my waist, which is this line here, at 17. And then I'm going to mark my hip, let's say at 27. So now on the waistline, I'm not going to mark my exact waist measurement. I'm going to do my waist divided by 4, but then I'm going to add, let's say, extra 1.5 inch to it. So let's say my waist divided by 4 gave me 9, and then plus 1.5 is going to be, let's say, 10.5 here. So, and then after that, I'm going to just come down to my hip, and then mark my hip divided by 4. Let's say that's 12. I'm going to mark it here, but instead of using 12, I'm going to move it and add, let's say, 2 inches to it. So that means what I'm going to mark here, because I want it to be looking like, I want it to look almost like a line. So from my hip to this point, and then from the bust to this point here. You could also do your waist plus 2 inches. It doesn't matter, because I'm still going to go in and add a belt inside. So I'm going to add this very small belt on the inside. So it's going to cinch in the waist. So the one I'm going to, when I put the belt on the inside, I'm going to use my exact waist measurement. But for here, I'm just going to use my, just for the surface stitch, I'm just using extra to add it to it. It's not really it's going to look a little loose, but when I go to put in the belt, it's going to be directly where my waist is. So now I'm going to try to transfer all these measurements on the other side. So mark it where it is. Where my finger is, I'm going to just transfer it there, and then on this point again. And then I'm going to go ahead and turn it around. So I know where the 3 dots I marked are. So that way I know this is where I'm making my stitch, from here to here, and then from this point here to this point here. And that is my stitch. So stop here, mark here, and then mark here. So I'm going to open it up now, and then I'm going to go to my sewing machine, right? And then I'm going to pin this down. and start from here. You're sewing it on the front of the cloth. Start from here, sew down all the way to this point, stop here. If you want, you could also sew it into the ruffle, but I don't find the need for that. And then I'm also going to do the same thing on this point here. If you want, you could go into the ruffle too, right? So once that is done, we'll come back in and put in the belt. So guys, this is what we have here. You see, I've sewn this to the side here, and then I've also sewn this to the side. So you see my stitch coming in here all the way to this point here. So the next thing I'm going to do is fold it back again into two. Now it's just for me to put in these two belts on the inside. It already looks nice, but I just want to cinch it in a little bit more. So I'm going to fold it into two. And then the next thing I'm going to do is to measure from my shoulder to my waistline. So my shoulder to my waist is going to be 17. So go from this point to 17, which we already determined to be here. Now I'm going to do my waist divided by 4. So my waist divided by 4 is at 9, which is here, right? So this is the point where this belt is going to be, where this 17 meets the waist divided by 4. That's my shoulder to waist meets my waist divided by 4. So what I'm going to do now is that I'm going to make sure to mark it on the inside. So I can't turn it around and mark it. So what I'm going to do is just to hold it here and use my chalk to mark it, because it's going to be on the front. I'm tying it towards the back, and then I'm going to turn it around again to the other side and make sure I find where it is, which is here on this particular point. And then I'm going to also insert the belt here. Or you could just do the same thing, come over to this side again and measure it again all over. So you just measure it, and then you're going to just go ahead and mark it again. So if I turn it to the wrong side, to the back, this is where my belt is going to be. So guys, you see, one on this side, one on this side. So all I have to do is just to take this belt, stitch it down here, and take the other one also, stitch it down here. So it's going to be tied on the inside. You're going to make sure that when you join it, the two ends are facing this way, right? It's out, not facing towards the front. Stitch it to face this way. Just tack it down, and you're going to tie it inside of the cloth, and that is going to be it for the dress. So thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you in my next video. Guys, please like, share, and subscribe. Bye.